About to absolutely blow your mind. There you go. This. Let's do this. I'm the Home Slice, Ascend Hyperion, and this is my new saga, Let's Argue, where I make what's probably going to be the mistake of letting you guys give me your hot takes, your crazy ideas, and your normal opinions about Halo. I'll read through a couple on Twitter, and we'll talk about them here. Let's get this started. It would help if I had my phone nearby so I could read off Twitter. This is probably the most scuffed video setup I've ever done. My videos are usually pretty well meditated, but I'm vulnerable with you guys. This is all off of Twitter. If you want to participate in Let's Argue, you want to follow me on Twitter at Ascend Hyperion. I asked you guys for a couple responses on the first thread, and you definitely delivered. So we won't be going through every hot take today, but we'll hit a couple of the good ones. Someone by the name of Funny Little Character says, "This is a beautiful helmet." I disagree. This helmet is a disaster. I don't know what they were thinking. This helmet looks like I went into Blender and set my scale access to Z and just squished it. I don't know if it was them literally trying to do a redesign or if it was a licensing issue or what it was, but no, I disagree. Something was wrong with this. The body was okay. Nothing beats Mark IV though, I think is the problem. The Halo Wars Mark IV, that is premium. That's probably some of the best Halo armor ever. Today's video is sponsored by Mech Arena. I'm excited to talk to you all again about Mech Arena, the must-have mobile game that throws you into 5v5 robot combat action. This quirky little game blends vibrant styling with a wide swath of uniquely designed mechs, and is a solid time passer for almost any mobile device. Just recently, Mech Arena released 12 new unique pilots, who add brand new layers of customization and gameplay crafting to your experience. Use them to further tailor your mech to your preferences. Collect rare, epic, and legendary pilots, and pair your pilots with any mech in the game. Discover new combinations and tactics to outsmart and outplay your opponents. And I think my favorite part about this game is that it's a happy little trade-off between simple gameplay and higher levels of customization. You can craft your gameplay experience, but it's never overwhelming. It's all very easy to jump into and casual for enjoyment. If you want to look up this game ahead of time, you might see that not too long ago, Mech Arena raised $100,000 for charity through its Mechs Are Here event. There was even a real live mech combat involved. And of course, you know this game is rocking a cool festive themed season of unlocks, as well as new items in the Season 2 Battle Pass. There's new maps, and really there's more past that. So look, I want to give you a jump start. Use my links to start playing and you'll get 50,000 credits, 3 gold crates, and a new exclusive Mechs Are Here event skin. And hey, while you're in the game, send me a friend request. Download Mech Arena free on Android and iOS today. Not Your Concern says, the Arbiter was a better main character than Chief. If we're talking about in Halo 2, maybe, yeah. I think the Halo, if you look back on Halo 2, the Arbiter storyline from a narrative perspective, from an actual writing perspective, is far more interesting. Overall, that's kind of hard to say because the Arbiter has been neutered in the franchise. When Halo 3 came out, fans did not want the Arbiter to have a prominent place in the story, so his role was greatly diminished. And then even in Halo 5, in his return, he is just kind of like a caricature of what people remember about the Arbiter, oh, he says stoic things and he likes to stomp. My people need my help, right? Yeah, so there's not much going on with him in Halo 5 either. Not from a real tangible standpoint. We're gonna have to go with a sort of agree. HD says, get rid of BTB and just add a BR mode, a Battle Royale mode. Do you hear that? That's the sound of danger approaching. We're gonna go with disagree. Here's the thing, right? I'm not opposed to Battle Royale in Halo, and it'd be very easy for me to describe all the ways it would work and why. The mistake people constantly make, and is the same mistake made in this comment, is comparing BTB to Battle Royale. Just because these are game modes with more than 8 players in them does not make them equivalent. I think the big question you have to ask is, what type of experience does BTB create, and what type of experience does BR create? And are those experiences different enough to warrant the two coexisting? I would say yes, right? A Battle Royale experience, unless it's like Fortnite. Fortnite had like that Battle Royale teams mode, all right? Now that's BTB. But a traditional, just 100 players, fighting for number one on an island, that has nothing to do with traditional BTB, team-based objective gameplay, large-scale vehicle combat, or large encounters, high volumes of power weapons. The two experiences, I think, are valid enough separately to coexist, and I would not get rid of one to have the other. And I think that was the fear, or at least the narrative a lot of people were trying to push, is, oh, if they do BR, they won't do this. I don't think that's true. I think it would exist independent of anything. And unfortunately, the truth of it is that if they were to put a BR mode in there, some moron would have made it an issue. They'd have been like, oh, they gave us BR but not infection. Like, well, we still don't have infection and we have no BR, right? So that's where we are now, and that's the reality we're in. And you don't see anybody blaming BTB for the lack of griff ball. So again, people are weird and scared. Dr. James Glacier says assassinations were a super fun part of the game and it sucks that they were removed. I agree. As someone who spends a lot of time talking about gameplay and analyzing gameplay, the whole we couldn't figure out where assassinations fit in the combat loop thing has made no sense to me. And I've thought about it a lot, because pretty much everything that would make assassinations not fit in would be remedied by the option Halo 5 gave you, which was just to turn them off. Like, if you felt like assassinations were going to disrupt your combat or interfere with your intentions as the player, you disable them, and Halo 5 let you do that. Why they had to be removed, I have no idea. It does feel like just a ball drop from 343. And I know they've mentioned that, we might bring it back later. What are you gonna find a spot for it? Like, if you're saying it does not work in the game, if it returns, it just kind of sells the point that it never had to be removed in the first place. So that's up for interpretation. Now this is a good one, and now that you guys have had Infinite for a little bit, I want you to really think about this one. The Reclaimer trilogy would have greatly benefited from having the Banished fill the role of Jules Covenant in Halo 4 and 5. I disagree. Here's the thing. I think the Banished, as a concept, are benefiting directly from having a disliked enemy class come before them. I think any enemy faction that would have been the post-Covenant enemy in Halo 4 and 5 would have been disliked because they weren't the Covenant. And that is the same kind of kickback that Jul Mandama's Splinter Covenant gets in the Reclaimer saga. It's like, oh, they might be the bad guys, but they're not the real Covenant. Yeah, Jul Mandama's Covenant is critiqued for looking different, for having different motives, for incorporating different ideas and technology. And the Banished, it's the exact same way. The Banished look different, they have different ideas, they have different motives. And ironically, I think in an alternate timeline, if we would have started with the Banished and people would have disliked that first, the Jul Mandama's Covenant coming into the series would have been like, oh, the Covenant is back! The Covenant is back! You know what I'm saying? Like, that would have been the reaction. Like, oh, finally, the real enemy is back. You see how easy it is to flip that? So I think the Banished greatly benefit from people having negative emotions towards Jules Covenant and the Prometheans by extension, where people are like, oh man, I'm down with something different from what I disliked. Kind of like the new kid on the block mentality. Like, there's 343 could not have won with any enemy in Halo 4, really, because the game before that was about finishing the fight. So if I just finished the fight, why am I fighting more people. Cobalt GX says Halo 2 is the worst Halo game. The enemies are unfair to fight against. Every weapon that isn't the plasma pistol, energy sword, spanker, or a precision weapon like the BR sniper is useless because of dual wielding, and the multiplayer has too many exploits. This guy sounds like he's been watching my videos. I don't agree, but I don't disagree. Halo 2 is my favorite Halo game, and it is the one I'm the most willing to be critical of, and a lot of what's being said here is true. Halo 2 is an absolute cluster Halo game where they were really experimenting with changing some things and adding some things in, and not all that works quite right. Halo 2 arguably is the game that defines what would be the precision weapon meta, which depending on your train of thought or your school of thought, you would see as a negative thing in Halo. Dual wielding did have extremely negative impacts for the weapon sandbox for that game, and then Halo 3, which is why it's never come back. And yes, exploits, very true. And I think that's one of the interesting points is, you know, back in the day, you know, they were exploits, sure, but we treated them as like, oh, yeah, like a skilled player can use this exploit, right? If we had that today, people would freak out. You know, people would be up in arms. Like if that weird melee thing that was in the Infinite Flights had stayed in the game, you know, people would be up in arms. But 15 some years ago, we would have just chalked it up as, oh man, here's a little gameplay tip. Here's here's a little tip and trick to never play the game right ever again. So it's kind of a sign of like a change in the times, right? Where that type of thing, we're not really as cool with it as we used to be, because really we don't have to be. Like before a game came out, you got that game and that was it, man. If that was busted, it was busted forever. But now with games being, you know, pseudo live services or actual live services, or just the general concept of game updating, being able to change game files has, I think, permanently altered how we view video games. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in to the first episode of Let's Argue. Hopefully this is a good way for me to interact with you guys, to talk a little more informally about the world of Halo. Nothing in this is meant to be just like a drag fest, or I'm just flaming somebody, right? It's not meant to be like that. It's just fun conversations with my supporters on Twitter about the Halo universe, and talking more about Halo in a way that I don't get to normally. So if you enjoy this, be sure to like and subscribe. Follow my Twitter, link below, and my Instagram as well, and you can even join my Discord, which is in there too. Until next time, I'll catch y'all later.